Hello, my name is Barbara Yarde and today I'm going to show you how to make a silver inlay necklace. Let's take a look at the samples. And then we have the inlaid pendant, again sterling silver and copper. In this video I'm going to show you how to do the inlay technique. It's a really lovely technique to use. Let's get started. First thing I've got here is a sheet of 0.8mm sterling silver, and I'm using a sheet of 0.4mm copper. I'm also going to be using a number 4 saw blade. First thing I'm going to do is grab my template, and I'm using a hexagon template. I'm just going to scribe my shape. I've scribed my shape. Now I'm going to decide where I want my lines to go. And I'm going to scribe 2 lines going along each piece. I think I'll put one there and one there. So one line goes there. I'm going to put my other line straight down there. Next thing I need to do, I'm just going to cut this shape out. I'm not going to cut the exact shape, I'm going to cut slightly larger because I need to drill 2 holes. So I'll cut that out first. So I've cut my shape out. Next thing I need to do is just outside of my scribe lines, I'm going to mark with my centre punch because I need to drill a hole. So I'm going to put one there. And one there. Next, I'm just going to get my pendant motor with my drill bit, lubricate my drill bit, and drill 2 holes. And the only place that I'm going to use my number 4 saw blade is along this strip here and along this strip here. So I'm going to do that now. This is a number 4 saw blade that I'm using, and it's one of your thickest, and your 8-0 would be your thinnest, and a 1-0 is in the middle. So as soon as you start to get into the single numbers, the saw blades start to get really thick, and this is what we need just to give us enough space on out for our inlay. Trying to keep my line as straight as possible. There we go. And if you see, it's quite a deep gap it's left in there, and that's going to be perfect for the size I want. I'm going to do my next line. Same thing again, I'm just going to use my saw blade and score a nice straight line. Next I'm taking this out and I'm using a number 2 saw blade. Slightly thinner. I've now got my 04 sheet of copper, and that 04 sheet will slot in to each of these little gaps here. I only need to cut enough that it will slot in, so I'm just going to mark it there, and I know how much to cut off. Try and keep it as straight as possible. So I've got my first piece. I'm going to grab that and I'm going to slot it into my little groove here. Going to get my pliers. It might be that you need to just maneuver it about a bit just to make sure it actually sits in. I'm going to snip off a little tiny bit. You might have to just wiggle it about a bit just to get into the groove, because it's a really tight groove that I want to get it into. So I'm just going to that's the first one, and that's absolutely fine because we want it a little bit poking out of the front and a little bit poking out of the back there. I'm going to do exactly the same thing for my second one now. Just cut a little strip of metal off and poke that in. Just going to trim my end here. Just check to make sure it fits. If not, I can trim it down a little bit more, which I think I need to do. Same thing, I'll just pick it up and push it in between the grooves. Just got to, I might have to just open up this a tiny little bit more. I'm going to use my saw blade frame for that. Just going to widen my little hole a little bit, not too much. It's very small and fiddly. There we go. Sometimes you do need to give it a real good push and a real good poke to push it into the right slot. So now I've got my 2 pieces of wire inlaid into my piece. Before I do any cutting, I want to solder those so they're nice and flat in there. Next, I need to solder my inlay. So I fluxed my inlay pieces, just laid a few pillions of hard solder along each of the inlay. I've now soldered my inlay pieces. I'm just going to quench that in some water and then I'll pickle it. I've now soldered my inlay into my pendant. I'm now going to cut my hexagon shape out. I've now got a very rough hexagon, which I'm going to use my either a flat file or a half round file just to make nice and neat. Then I will work on my inlay section. I've roughly cut my hexagon. Now just going to get an emery stick and clean the sides to make them nice and smooth. Next thing I need to tackle is my actual inlaid section. So I'm going to use my file and I'm just going to file away all the excess solder. Move on to my emery stick and I'm going to flip my piece over and just emery just along here. You can see the starts of the inlay coming through. I still need to clean a little bit more of the solder there. Going to now go back to my emery stick, same process. Now that's the front of my pendant, a little bit more cleaning up. I'm going to use a slightly less coarse buff stick. I'm now just moving through my grades of emery paper. I'm now down to the thousands and I want to get a really nice finish. I'm actually going to give this a slight textured finish, but I still want to get my finish as nice and neat as possible, keeping my strokes going in one direction. And that's my pendant nearly finished. I just need to put a bail on that. And for that, I will be using some sterling silver jump rings. And to make my bail, and I'm just going to make a half bail, I just need to get my pair of tweezers and my parallel pliers. So I take my pair of tweezers, grip the center split, and that you can see that it's still open. Grab my parallel pliers, put them in so they're nice and straight, and I've gripped my parallel pliers, and you can see that the slit is looking up at me right there. Get my saw frame. Make sure my saw frame is nice and tight. I have my jump ring in my parallel pliers. I just keep my saw frame flat and file along. and I have a flat section there. Next, I get my file, the flat side of my file. I'm just going to rub along this section here till it's nice and flat. I now have my little half round, and if I stand that up, it should stand up on its own. There we go, and that's what you're looking for. Now just going to clean up the rest of the pendant, and then we will get ready to solder. I have now cleaned my pendant on the back and on the front. I've put my little jump ring on the top. I've flipped my pendant over so the back is looking at me. I'm now going to just solder my little jump ring onto my pendant there, using 2 tiny pieces of hard solder. I'm now going to quench my pendant and pickle it, and then clean it up. I've now taken my piece out of the pickle, and I'm gently going to just clean up the solder points on the back here and on the front, and that's the only place I'm going to do any cleaning up. Now I'm just going to rebuff my pendant with my soft buff stick. This is about a 1200 buff stick. Do the same thing on the opposite side. So that's the front of my pendant. I'm going to get some wire wool, and this is my coarse bit of wire wool, and just do a nice textured pattern all over. I'm going to do the same thing on the back. The the last thing I'm going to do on my pendant is just put another jump ring on, just so I can put a chain on there. And again, I'm using my flat nose pliers. Two pairs I've got. I'm going to open it up, link it through, and close it nice and neatly. So this brings us to the end of the project. You can see the different effects you can get using inlay. This would look really nice with yellow gold or rose gold. It's not a very difficult piece to do. You could put many more stripes than I've actually done on there. And you can give this a high polish or give it a matte finish like I've done here. I hope you enjoy this project. Please do put your finished pieces on the Facebook group, and I hope to see you in the next video.